Good morning, tribe. Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. How about you, Kit? Are you having an amazing and fascinating day? Do you want to say good morning to the people? They're in there. See, look in there. Right there. No, right there. There we go. That's where they are. That's where they are. Kit says hi. I say hi. And I've got a doozy for you today. This video took me a long time to make. Not because it was complicated, but because it was really quite humbling in retrospect. And what you're about to see looks like a string of unrelated problems. A fridge fault, an inverter issue, a battery failure. But what I learned, pretty slowly, is how easy it is to miss the step that actually matters when you're solving problems in real time. And in this case, even at the end, we never fully figured out what caused it. Let's roll the intro, and we'll get right into it.
Wake up with the sun in our eyes. Sally forth, no need for goodbyes. Journey calls, let's roll the dice. Every mile a new surprise.
This all happened over about 3 weeks in July while we were traveling through Colorado and South Dakota, with some detours in Wyoming and Nebraska at the beginning of this. One thing I want to say up front is this: we didn't stop traveling. We adjusted, we rerouted, we dealt with problems as they came up, and we still went everywhere we planned to go. And I guess for a little clarity, when I say we, this was the summer season I spent traveling with my friend Barb. So normally I travel alone, normally she travels alone. We decided we had a lot of things we wanted to see in common for this travel season, so we traveled together. Anyway, what you'll see here isn't a clean diagnosis story. It's what troubleshooting actually looks like when you're living the system that you're trying to fix. The day before yesterday, my refrigerator had a fault, which I didn't notice until sometime yesterday mid-morning or later, by which time my refrigerator had gotten up to 70 degrees inside. So, and stuff in my freezer was starting to defrost last night. It is coming down, but when I looked this morning, we've gone from 70 down to 55. So I'm going to try really hard to keep the refrigerator parked in the shade today to the greatest extent possible. And, yeah. At the time, this felt like a fridge problem. High heat, an absorption fridge, long days. Nothing about this raised true red flags for me. I logged it. I kept moving, and I assumed the system underneath was fine. That assumption turns out to matter. We're hoping we're going to end up in an RV park tonight because, my inverter's not working. I went through a whole bunch of troubleshooting last night, did a reset on the servo, can't get the inverter to recognize that it has power to it, so kind of weird. So I just tried turning on the generator to run the AC. That didn't work. And then I saw that my converter circuit breaker was tripped. So I reset that, and I still have no power either through my big inverter, my original house inverter, or the generator, which tells me plugging into shore power also is not going to have any effect, and that the most likely culprit is my transfer switch, which actually should not be a terribly big deal if you get a tech for it, maybe. And with all of our other issues going on, we have completely revamped our plans for the day. And we are now heading southwest toward Loveland. We actually gave up on finding dispersed camping. We're planning to go park in the Sam's Club parking lot. So it's turning out to be quite the interesting day. And we're doing this, we've revamped everything because we want to try and get my power issues addressed, and Barb's propane issue addressed. And then we can move on comfortably. So, but we're going to stop at Scotts Bluff on the way because we were going to hit that tomorrow. And hopefully we're going to still come back up and hit Agate, even though we're going to miss Carhenge. So what I did was, first I got on RVhelp.com looking for an RV tech, and they seem to be in like Fort Collins, Cheyenne, that area. And then I got on looking for RV Solar, and that's pretty much all the way down to Loveland. I found one that's got 35 5-star reviews, and I'm surely hoping that they can help me tomorrow morning. I am tempted to call these people when we get stopped this evening and leave messages for them in the hopes that I'll get a faster response. But hey, Tribe, Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am in real life, but not in this video. I want to set the stage for you a little bit. You may have noticed in the last couple of travel videos, I've been having some electrical issues. And I had spent an awful lot of time troubleshooting, trying to figure stuff out, trying to get it back on the road, and watch what happens in this video. And we think it's all straightened out, but I'm going to give you a spoiler alert because you're going to need to keep watching this series. It's not all straightened out. So once we finally do determine the actual fix, I'm going to do a whole separate video and run through everything start to finish so it stands alone. But what I want you guys to get out of this video is what it's like to still continue, like we're on vacation. Barb and I have been on vacation this time, and we don't want to stop our vacation. We did detour our vacation to come all the way back down to Loveland, Colorado, hours away from where we had intended to be, in order to be closer to being able to get help. But pay attention. I mean, you can hear in my voice, I'm not terribly upset about stuff, but it's stressful. And I want you to get that feeling, because full-time nomad life is not all rainbows and unicorns. Just saying. All right. Stay tuned. Enjoy this video. Leave me a comment down below. How would you handle this kind of stuff? Would you have made the, 3+ hour drive back down to Loveland, or would you have done something else? What I don't say clearly in the video is that we did a bunch of research. I did a bunch of research before we decided to do that indicated that was really going to be the closest possible source of help for a qualified Victron technician. So that's why we ended up there. Anyway, check this out. Thanks for being here. And although my refrigerator was up to 50 degrees yesterday afternoon, it spent a lot of time in the sun. It was back down to like 38 this morning. So I think I'm okay again. So 18 miles, 21 minutes. And one of the blessings of traveling with Barb right now is that Kit can go hang out at Barb's house, right? You can hang out at Barb's house while we're figuring out what's going on with our house. How about that? How about that, baby boy? That'll work. This morning, I wasn't feeling so confident about our decision to do the driving yesterday to get into this area. Barb's thought, and I think it was right, and I certainly thought it was right when she said it. I was losing a little faith in that thought this morning, not in Barb, but in that thought, was that if we did the driving yesterday, we'd at least be in the area that we need to be in. If somebody could possibly see us today, we could say we can be there in half an hour instead of we can be there in 2.5 hours or 3 hours. And as it turned out, that was pretty prophetic.
Solar power my RV.
Okay, and tell me, how hard was it to fix my system that I thought was bricked and needed a new ATS and all kinds of other stuff?
Very easy.
Yeah, why was it easy? Go ahead, tell the truth, it's okay.
You have to turn it on.
Yeah. Okay, and why am I telling you this, guys? I'm going to show you real quick why I'm telling you this. And I'm going to ask you to put your finger in here and point to it for us.
All right.
So I ended up having to reboot my servo. But look at this. See that switch right there? Regardless of what I'm doing inside on the servo panel, that switch must be on. I am sharing this with you, as I always do, because if I've done something stupid, chances are you will too.
It happens.
Mistakes happen.
Yep.
But when you get a guy like Roland here who can really help you out with this stuff, you got to be grateful. When Roland flipped the inverter switch on and everything came back to life, I felt relief, not curiosity. And that's important. I didn't ask what caused the overload. I didn't circle back to the fridge fault. I let working again stand in for understood. And at the time, that felt reasonable. This is where the dots could have connected and didn't. I treated the inverter overload as a separate event, a one-off, something I could reset and move past. Looking back, this was the moment where asking one more why might have saved time later. I'm all fixed. I don't know exactly what was going on. Well, I do know exactly what was going on. What was going on was that I made a mistake, and I'm going to own up to it, because I think that's important to do. So here's what happened. Sorry, I got to look at the map. County 66. What happened was I had this overload fault, and I tried to do a hard reset on the servo, and I was troubleshooting back to the inverter, trying to.
Turn right onto Colorado 66 West.
And as part of my whole troubleshooting process, I ended up manually turning the switch on the inverter off. And I was back and forth doing so many different things, I neglected to turn it finally back on at the end of the day. He took a look at Barb's potential issue with the propane, and his feeling is that it's really not a propane issue. There's really nothing wrong, except it was probably operator error trying to fill it. So we're going to just go find another propane supply place, get her filled, and see if that's really all it is, which I kind of suspect is true as well. So we were both pretty concerned about what could have been fairly catastrophic issues for each of us, and chances are really good, we won't know until we go to a propane place, but chances are really good that it was a non-issue for both of us. So there you go. Sometimes RV life works out okay. And so we decided to go lay up for a few days and chill out at a campground, well, so to speak. We went to Cottonwood Springs Campground, which is an Army Corps of Engineers campground in Hot Springs, South Dakota. Beautiful area. Great campground. Had a really good time there, relaxing. And a couple of days in, the fridge faulted. And now, it's like, what on earth is going on? Ton of troubleshooting down the road. I was convinced I needed a new circuit board for the fridge at that point. Now this is where it stopped feeling random. The fridge wasn't just warm, it was telling me it wasn't getting stable DC power. And at the same time, the CO alarm was screaming for the same reason. The lithium system was fine, solar was fine, and that's what made this really confusing. Bay full of Big Beard batteries and Victron equipment and all that good stuff, and it's filthy. And we're thinking heat, vibration, and dust are probably the main culprit here. I know one thing that's wrong is, you see this bus bar right here? It's supposed to be attached. It's not. So there's that, and God only knows what else is wrong. But since I don't do electrical, we got Joel. That's what we got. All right, so we're gonna get into this. I'm not going to film him doing whatever, but we'll go back over this once we figure it out. Fair enough? All right, so this is the cover off of the Lynx distributor now, and Joel's going to kind of tell us what's going on in here, just so we've got an idea of what we got.
So what I'm doing is I've traced out the battery connection here. The best I can. It is tight in here.
It's very tight.
So,
nothing like cramming in as much equipment as you possibly can.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I want to make sure there's the battery. So the battery is this one right here. And I have 14 volts on one side, I have 14 volts on the other side. So that tells me 14. I'm getting power across. 14, 14, 14, 14. So they all have good power. All right.
So there's that.
So all our fuses are good.
Okay, well that's good news, bad news.
Yes. Now we got to figure out
What's wrong.
What's wrong? Yeah.
I tried doing a hard reset on that yesterday just in the hopes it was going to. No. So this is the original set of 12 volt batteries, which are less than 2 years old because they were theoretically, according to Camping World, they put in new batteries when I bought the coach. And you can see what they look like. So apparently these 12 volt batteries is what's controlling my 12 volt system. It has nothing to do with what's down here, which is not what I had understood originally. So that's not good news as far as I'm concerned. So Joel's going to clean them up and test them and see what we got at that point. And then we'll see what's next. All right, so you'll notice my compartment's closed back up. That's a good sign. And then we're going to come down here to where my original lead acid 12 volt batteries lived. Well, they're not there anymore. Now we got a brand new one. Joel, talk us through this. What did we find? What's going on? What do we think?
So what we found out was the two 6 volt batteries that were in series to make it 12 volts had a lot of corrosion, had swollen, and had gone bad basically. They were only putting out about 2 volts. So what we did is Sally went and grabbed, say, new battery. I installed that for her. As soon as we installed that new battery, everything in the coach started running a lot stronger 12 volt. I plugged in my voltmeter on it. I had her run her 12 volt slide in and out, put an amperage on it so that we could get a load on there. The batteries went down. The batteries went down about a half volt, right? And then as soon as the load was off, the battery started to charge back up to 12.3, 12.4, which tells me that her converter's good. They're charging. The batteries had gone that bad that they were not providing 12 volt to the rest of the system anymore.
And the only supposition that I can make, and I might be wrong, might be right, is that possibly when the batteries were last serviced, the terminals were not fully tightened, and in all the crap and corruption that I've been driving through, that looseness and all of the bouncing allowed the corrosion to develop to the point where it actually broke the connection completely.
And that could very well be because there was a lot of corrosion built up on those batteries. So, and that's the biggest thing is you need to make sure you keep your batteries clean, and if they're lead acid, make sure you're checking your water and making sure that the water is filled up. The plates just need to be covered. It doesn't need to be completely full, and it needs to be distilled water.
Yeah.
If you put anything other than distilled water, you will actually ruin those batteries.
Yeah, you'll be buying a new battery at that point.
Yes.
And so just to be clear, I originally had two 6 volt golf cart type batteries that were wired in series to create 12 volt. And now I've got a single group 27 12 volt lead acid battery, which I don't expect to last a real long time, but that's what was available, so that's what I picked up for now.
There you go.
Finding those corroded batteries felt like the answer. They were obviously bad, and replacing them immediately improved things. What neither Joel nor I stopped to ask was whether the corrosion itself was a symptom and not the root cause. And once again, better felt close enough to fixed. CO alarms going off again, and the voltage on the original house battery location, the one that we had just replaced, was really low. And it wasn't dead yet, but it was getting there. And so what we did was I borrowed Barb's solar panel and directly connected it to her portable solar panel, directly connected it to that battery, and that kept it going enough during the day. And then several times in the evening, I'd run my engine for a while because my engine would charge that battery. And that's the only way that battery got charged was either through the converter, through my inverter, or through the engine. So we were just managing, and sometimes that's exactly what you need to do in order to be able to keep moving. But management mode can also delay understanding. And so, I went through a long period while we were there of trying to suss this out, where I reached out to my solar installers who were from the NRVTA in Texas. They did a great job, and they did a great job of helping me out with this as well. Thank you, Caleb, if you happen to be watching this. And basically what we were pretty sure of at that point was that I had a bad converter. And so Caleb's advice was to go ahead and replace the house battery again. And I said, what if we do it with a lithium this time? He said, yes, but you will probably need to get an LIBIM, which we did, which we arranged for. And you'll need to either replace the converter if that's what the real problem is, or add a charger that can handle lithium. And so I'll skip all of the stuff about all of the other techs that I tried to talk to. I had one that wanted to come out to the wall from Rapid City just to be able to look at the system and charge me, I think it was $175 an hour and $175 trip charge to do that before he would agree as to whether or not he could fix the problem. That was going to be expensive and unnecessary. So this stuff can get real expensive real fast, just FYI. So I thought about this for a while after I'd talked to Caleb, and I called Joel back. And what we ended up doing was arranging to have all the parts shipped to him at the RV park where he was staying in Custer. And then once things had arrived, Barb and I would head back there. We actually got there a day or two before things arrived, and arranged for Joel to come and work on the rig where we were boondocked. How nice was that? And he spent a long time working on the rig. So, 10.1.
Yes.
So we're not fully charged.
Nope.
But it's not a big deal because it's lithium. We don't really care.
Correct.
It'll charge up in the next couple of days, probably.
Yes. Yes, it will. Well, and lithium charges way faster, so
yeah, so it shouldn't take forever.
You could take a couple hours to get you up to 100%, depending on where this battery's at right now.
Yeah.
Charge wise.
So here it is.
Packaging was very good.
Yeah, it was double boxed actually. And here's something to keep in mind, guys. This is 100 amp hour, and so this is the inner box. That's the outer box. And I went with the 100 amp hour because when I measured up the battery compartment, although dimensionally I could make a 206 amp hour fit, not with the configuration of the terminals. So see how they're on the top? Because with lithium batteries, you can turn the battery on the side if you need to. That's not a big deal. But there was no way with the dimensions of the 206 to be able to find a way to actually access the terminals. So we've got 100, which is fine because whatever the equivalent group 27 is, you know, we can use all of this power versus using 50% or less of the one that died in 4 days. All right, well, here's the new charger. And it says it's in bulk. It's working on 14.4 volts. Woohoo! And here's the new battery, all installed. And you can see, you can actually watch on the meter, you know, how fast it's going up. Pretty cool. Cottonwood Springs in Hot Springs.
Yes.
Now we're outside of Custer, so we've moved around a little bit. It's been a few weeks. We've had a whole bunch of issues going on. I'm not gonna recap all of those issues here, but we're gonna talk about what it is that we've done today, and then how it is that I'm gonna be able to monitor to see if we've really solved the problem or not. So what all have we done today, Joel?
So we took out the lead acid coach battery and we put it in a lithium battery. We took out the converter basically, and we put in a DC to DC, or actually it's just a charger.
It's just a charger.
A 30 amp charger. It's a Victron charger. So we hardwired it into the panel, so it's on the converter AC breaker, and it's got 12 volts and it's charging the battery. You should be able to see it with the dummy lights. Also, I believe if you looked at your Victron charger, you saw...
It shows on my Victron Connect app, but I don't see it showing on the servo. I don't think it will
No, it won't show on the servo.
It won't show on the servo, but it shows on my Victron Connect app, so that's cool.
Yeah, because the servo is a different system, and it's not even connected into that.
Right,
so.
right.
We also replaced the relay, so when you're running your coach, it's no longer just the generic relay and could potentially burn up your alternator because those lithium batteries charge at such a higher rate. So it's a Li BIM, so it has a function in there. With logic, it'll turn it on and off, so it does not burn up the alternator. At this point, the battery is not dying like it was before. It actually charged up and is staying charged at this point
For a couple of hours.
for a couple hours.
So
We're going to monitor it for the weekend and make sure that we are good to go and that the battery does not die in that time frame.
okay, so what I'm looking for is a voltage drop of probably, I mean, we're at like 13.4 to 14.4 depending on what's getting used right now.
Right.
So I'm looking for a voltage drop. If I see it down in the 12s, I potentially have, and no load, I potentially have an issue.
No, but you could get down to the 12s as long as you don't get down into the 11s.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And then in the morning, once the sun comes back up and you start charging your other batteries and your inverter, you should be good to go.
Yeah, and because then what happens now is the solar is charging my big lithium battery bank, which is 560 amp hours, and then my inverter is charging this battery through the charger.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And the BIM that we put in the front compartment is so that this battery will also charge when I'm driving.
Correct.
Okay. So really all I'm watching for is a voltage drop at this point.
Yes. Yeah. I would keep an eye on your servo because as the night progresses and it tries to keep this battery charged, it will put a little bit of a load on your other house batteries, but you should be good. It shouldn't be too crazy because it's topped off for the most part right now.
Okay.
So
yeah, and hopefully that all works out okay, because my habit had always been that I just turned my inverter off at night and ran off of my 12 volt,
right,
which I have not been doing at all for the past week and a half when the 12 volt was not holding a charge at all. So actually I'm wondering, is there any reason not to go back to that like tomorrow night?
no, go back to it.
I think I'll let it just run tonight since the battery is brand new installed.
Yep.
And then tomorrow night I think I'm going to turn the inverter back off and try this again.
Okay.
So I think the takeaway from this, guys, is it's never just one thing.
No.
It's never just one thing.
Right.
And what we didn't talk about at all, and you can't see it, but here's the this is where the new battery is, and behind this is a bunch of cabling that runs to where?
Let's see. It goes to the generator. Where else? Then it goes in up to the coach and then kind of disappears. And there was a couple loops in there. And we did find before that her converter was not fused before. It was basically on the wrong side of the fuse. So I don't know when that was, but we cleaned up all the cabling. I put
Which all
heat
looked
shrink.
bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it all had some corrosion on it.
Right.
And in fact, the 12 volt battery that we just took out, which has only been in for about a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
That also had corrosion showing on the terminals, and you ended up, so in addition to all of the basic cleanup, you also heat shrinked all of those connections,
Yes.
which were previously covered in electrical tape.
Yes.
Which makes us think that somebody was
doing something
in there
at some point, yeah.
that may have been nefarious.
I cleaned it up with a baking soda water, and we cleaned them up, made sure that all the corrosion was off there, all the acid was off, and then I put heat shrink on everything so it's nice and clean in there.
So hopefully we're going to be okay.
Yes.
I want to get back to my normal RV life. I have not been enjoying the troubleshooting mode.
I don't blame you.
All right, thank you again, Joel. I really appreciate the help.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
So by the time that Joel came back, and we weren't just fixing one thing, we were basically redesigning how the system worked, and everything stabilized. But even then, there was still a missing answer. Here's the part that's uncomfortable to admit. We never discovered what caused the original corrosion on those cables. Nearly 2 years with no issues. Then extreme heat, dust, and vibration. We did probably about 150 miles of dirt roads over like a 2-day period. And maybe I should have slowed down a little more than I did, but whatever. Anyway, so we had all of those things and a failure chain that looks obvious only in hindsight. Was it environmental? Was it wiring? A missing fuse? We can make educated guesses, but we don't actually know. And we may never actually know. So the lesson here isn't about batteries or inverters. It's about how easy it is to overlook the one step that matters when you're solving problems while you're living your life. If you've ever chased the wrong fix because things mostly worked again, you're not alone. That's what this channel is really all about. thinking our way through real situations together. As always, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you taking your time to watch my videos. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments down below. If you haven't already, consider subscribing. Hype it. That seems to be a thing. I haven't ever actually seen that because I watch YouTube on my TV, so it doesn't show up for me. But yeah, hype it, leave a comment, and you know what really helps? Share it. If you think somebody else might get benefit from this, and maybe the benefit is being able to keep a positive attitude while things are going wrong all around you, whatever that may be. As always, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Wake up with the sun in our